was standing at that train station, clutching my daughter so tight I thought I might break her. My hands were shaking. Everything was shaking. 6 years. 6 goddamn years since my husband walked out that door and never came back. 6 years of questions, of sleepless nights, of his family treating me like I was the disease that infected their perfect little world. And now here I was, kicked out, homeless, with nothing but a suitcase and a child, who kept asking me where we were going. I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't have answers for anything anymore. The station was cold, sterile. People rushed past us like we were invisible. Maybe we were. Maybe that's what happens when you lose everything, you just fade into the background noise of other people's lives. I was trying to figure out which train to take, where we could go, who might still care enough to let us sleep on their couch. My mind was racing, spinning through every awful memory of how I got here. Then I heard it, the purr of an expensive engine. I looked up and saw this sleek black luxury car pulling up right in front of me. The window rolled down slowly, dramatically, like something out of a movie. And there she was. Aribba, my sister-in-law, sitting there in her designer sunglasses, her perfectly manicured nails resting on the steering wheel. She looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Not pity, not quite guilt either, something else, something urgent. "Get in," she said, her voice low and tense. "I need to tell you something important." I just stared at her. This woman whose family had just thrown me and my daughter out onto the street like we were trash. This woman who had stood there silent, while her mother called me a gold digger, while her father said, I probably drove their son away, with my nagging. This woman who had watched them pack up my things and change the locks without saying a single word in my defense. And now, she wanted me to get in her car? If you're watching this, and you've ever been betrayed by people you thought were family, people you trusted with everything, hit that subscribe button. Because this story gets so much worse before it gets better, and you need to hear what happened next. I want to take you back. Back to when everything still made sense. Back to when I actually believed in love and family, and all those beautiful lies we tell ourselves. My husband, David, God, even saying his name, hurts. He was gentle. He was kind. When we met, he looked at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. We had this little apartment, nothing fancy, but it was ours. We painted the walls together. We cooked meals together. We talked about our future together. When I got pregnant, he cried. Actually cried. Tears of joy. He held my belly every night and talked to our baby, told her all the things he was going to teach her, all the places we'd go as a family. I remember feeling so safe, so loved, so certain that this was my forever. His family was different though. They were wealthy, old money, the kind of people who measure your worth by your last name and your bank account. They never thought I was good enough for their son. His mother made these little comments. You know, the kind backhanded compliments that were really insults. "Oh, you're so brave to wear that. It's wonderful that David loves you despite your background." His father barely acknowledged my existence. But David always defended me. Always. He'd tell them to back off, tell them he loved me, and that was all that mattered. He chose me over their approval again and again. That's what made it so impossible to understand when he left. It was a Tuesday. Such a normal, boring Tuesday. He kissed me goodbye that morning, kissed our daughter's forehead, said he'd be home by 6. He never came home. No phone call. No text message. No note. Nothing. He just vanished like he'd never existed at all. I called everyone. The police, the hospitals, his work, his friends. I filed a missing person report. I spent weeks thinking he'd been in an accident, that he was lying in some hospital bed with amnesia, that he needed me to find him. I barely slept. I barely ate. I was drowning in fear and confusion. And his family? They blamed me. From day one, they blamed me. His mother looked me right in the eye and said, "What did you do to make him leave?" Like it was my fault. Like I had driven him away somehow. His father said I must have been a bad wife, that their son would never just leave unless he had a reason. Aribba stayed quiet, but I could see it in her eyes she believed them. The accusations got worse. They said I was controlling. They said I was demanding. They said I probably cheated on him and he couldn't handle it. Can you imagine? My husband disappears without a trace, and they turn it around to make me the villain. Every conversation became an interrogation. Every visit became a trial where I was already convicted. They let me stay in the house at first, the house that David and I had moved into, that we'd made into a home. But their kindness, if you could even call it that, came with strings. They watched me constantly. They questioned every decision I made. They made me feel like a prisoner in my own life. Then, 3 years after he disappeared, they started pushing me to sign papers. Estate papers, they said, to handle David's affairs, since he'd been gone so long. I was so tired, so beaten down, so desperate to just make them happy so they'd stop looking at me like I was a murderer. I signed whatever they put in front of me. I trusted them. God, I was so stupid. I trusted them. That's when everything changed. Suddenly they weren't just cold, they were hostile. His mother started making demands about how I raised my daughter. His father started talking about how the house was too big for just me and the child, how maybe we should move somewhere more appropriate. Aribba started avoiding my calls. Last month, they told me to leave. Just like that. His mother stood in the doorway of what I thought was my home, and told me I had 24 hours to pack up and get out. I tried to argue, tried to ask why, tried to understand what I'd done wrong. She just smiled this cold, cruel smile, and said, "You're not family. You never were." The locks were changed before I even finished packing. They threw my belongings into garbage bags like my life was trash. When I tried to take some of David's things I wanted our daughter to have, they physically blocked me. Said everything in that house belonged to them now. That I had no rights. That I should be grateful they let me stay as long as they did. So there I was. At that train station. With nothing. With no one. Trying to figure out how to explain to a 6-year-old child why her grandmother hated us, why we had nowhere to go, why her father left and was never coming back. And in that moment, seeing Aribba in her expensive car, rage just flooded through me. White hot, burning rage. But I got in the car. You know why? Because I needed to know. I needed to understand what the hell had happened to my life. Aribba didn't say anything at first. She just drove. Her hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles were white. I could see her jaw clenching, like she was fighting with herself about something. My daughter fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from crying. "Why?" I finally asked. My voice came out harder than I expected. "Why are you here? Your family just destroyed my life, and now you want to what? Give me a ride? Ease your conscience?" She flinched. Actually flinched. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "Something I should have told you years ago." The anger in my chest was growing, spreading, filling every space inside me. "What could you possibly have to tell me that matters now? After everything?" She pulled over into an empty parking lot and turned to look at me. And I saw it then, guilt. Real, genuine guilt, swimming in her eyes. "David didn't just leave," she whispered. Those 4 words. 4 simple words that made my entire world tilt sideways. "What?" "He didn't just leave," she repeated, and her voice was shaking now. "Morgan, I'm so sorry. My family, we made him go." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The air in the car felt like it was crushing me. "What are you talking about?" The story came pouring out of her then, like she'd been holding it in for so long it was poisoning her from the inside. David had wanted to leave the family business. He'd wanted to start his own company, something small and meaningful, something that aligned with his values. But their father had other plans. The business was supposed to go to David. He was the golden child, the heir, the one who would carry on the family legacy. When David refused, when he said he wanted to choose his own path, they threatened him. They told him they'd destroy me if he didn't comply. They'd ruin my reputation, get me fired from my job, make sure I could never work in my field again. They had connections, money, power. They could do it. And David knew they could do it. So he made a deal with them. He'd disappear. He'd go work for the family business in another country, cut off all contact with me, make it look like he'd abandoned us. In exchange, they'd leave me alone. They'd let me stay in the house. They'd make sure I was taken care of financially. They'd let our daughter grow up safe and provided for. He sacrificed himself to protect us. That's what Aribba said. He sacrificed his own happiness, his own family, everything he loved, because his family gave him no choice. But why kick me out now? I demanded. And I was crying now. tears of rage and grief streaming down my face. If that was the deal, why destroy that too? Aribba looked away. The papers you signed, they weren't just estate papers. They signed over your rights to the house, to David's assets, to everything. My parents wanted you gone. They always wanted you gone. They only tolerated you while it was useful for controlling David. Once they had what they needed, once you'd signed everything over, they didn't need to pretend anymore. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, betrayed, manipulated, used. Every word I'd ever spoken to these people, every moment I'd spent trying to earn their approval, every night I'd cried myself to sleep wondering what I'd done wrong, all of it was part of their plan. I was never a person to them. I was just an obstacle to be managed and eventually removed. Where is he? I asked through gritted teeth. Where is David? London. He's running the European division. Morgan. He doesn't know they kicked you out. He thinks you're still in the house, still being supported, still safe. They've been lying to him too, showing him fake updates, telling him you're doing fine. Something inside me snapped, not broke, snapped into place. Like a puzzle piece, finally finding where it belonged. All that grief, all that confusion, all that self-blame, it crystallized into something sharp and clear and purposeful. They'd played me. They'd manipulated both of us. They'd torn apart my family, stolen my home, and left me with nothing, all while sleeping peacefully at night, thinking they'd won. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated me. I looked at Aribba. Why are you telling me this now? She was quiet for a long moment. Because it's not right, she finally said. I've watched what they've done to you, to David, and I can't be part of it anymore. I've been a coward. I've stood by and let them destroy two people I care about, because I was too afraid to stand up to our parents. But seeing you at that train station with your daughter, seeing what they've reduced you to, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Here's what I need you to understand. When someone betrays you, really betrays you, you have two choices. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it forge you into something stronger. If you've been there, if you know what it's like to have the ground pulled out from under you, leave a comment. Tell me your story, because we're stronger together than they ever expected us to be. I didn't go on that train. I didn't run away with my tail between my legs. Instead, I went home with Aribba. Not to my old house, I'd never call that place home again, but to her apartment. She gave me and my daughter a place to stay. And more importantly, she gave me information. Every night after my daughter went to sleep, Aribba and I went through everything. Every document, every email, every piece of evidence we could find. She had access to her family's files, their financial records, their communications, and what we found was so much worse than I'd imagined. The papers I'd signed didn't just sign away my rights to the house. They'd forged my signature on other documents too. Debt documents. They'd taken out loans in my name, credit cards in my name, used my identity to create a paper trail that would leave me bankrupt and destroyed. They weren't just removing me from their lives, they were salting the earth so I could never recover. But they didn't count on Aribba turning against them. They didn't count on me fighting back. I found a lawyer, a good one, the kind who sees cases like mine and gets angry, the kind who actually believes in justice instead of just billable hours. We built a case brick by brick. Fraud, forgery, identity theft, coercion, harassment, every single thing they'd done to me, documented and cataloged and prepared for court. I also did something else. I reached out to David. Through Aribba, I got his number, his real number, not the disconnected one I'd been calling for 6 years. I sent him everything, every document, every piece of evidence, every detail of what his family had done to us. He called me within an hour, and hearing his voice after 6 years, God, it broke something open inside me. All that anger, all that pain, all that longing I'd buried just came flooding out. We both cried. We both apologized for things that weren't our fault. We both realized we'd been puppets in his family's sick game. But here's the thing about pain. Here's what I learned. Pain can paralyze you, or it can propel you, and I chose to let it propel me forward. David flew back immediately, not to reconcile with his family, to burn their entire scheme to the ground. He brought his own lawyers, his own evidence of how they'd coerced him, threatened him, controlled him. Together, We had enough to bury them. The confrontation happened at their house, the house they'd stolen from me. Aribba arranged it, told them David was coming home to visit, made it seem like everything was normal. They had no idea what was coming. I walked in with my lawyer, with David, with Aribba at my side, his mother's face. When she saw me, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. The shock, the anger, the fear when she realized her perfect plan was falling apart. "Hello," I said, and my voice was steady and cold and powerful. "We need to talk about what you've done." His father tried to bluster, tried to take control of the situation like he always did. But I didn't let him. I laid out every single piece of evidence on their expensive dining room table. The forged signatures, the fraudulent documents, the threats they'd made to David, the lies they'd told. Everything. "You thought you could destroy me," I said, looking his mother right in the eye. "You thought I was weak. You thought I was nobody. You thought you could just erase me from your son's life and face no consequences. You were nothing when he met you." She spat back, her mask finally dropping completely. "You were a nobody trying to climb the social ladder using our son. We did what we had to do to protect our family." "Your family?" I laughed, and it was a bitter, sharp sound. "You destroyed your family. You threatened your own son. You stole from me. You committed crimes. And you did it all because you're so obsessed with control that you couldn't let your son make his own choices." David stepped forward then. I'd never seen him look at his parents the way he looked at them in that moment. Pure disgust. "You're not my family anymore," he said quietly. "You stopped being my family the moment you made me choose between the people I love and your approval." His father tried to argue that everything they did was for the business, for the family legacy, for David's own good. The same justifications abusers always use. "It was for your own good. We were protecting you. You'll thank us someday." "I'm pressing charges," I said simply. "For fraud, for forgery, for identity theft, for every single illegal thing you've done. And David is severing all ties with the family business. You can find another heir for your empire. We want nothing from you, except justice." The legal battle took months. Months of depositions and court dates and lawyers arguing over every detail. But in the end, we won. Every single fraudulent document was voided. The house was returned to me, and I sold it immediately, donated half the money to organizations that help domestic abuse survivors, and used the rest to start fresh somewhere new. David's parents faced legal consequences for their fraud. Not as much as they deserved, because people with money rarely face real justice, but enough. Enough that their reputation was destroyed. Enough that their friends and business associates knew what they'd done. Enough that they lost the thing they valued most, their pristine image. Aribba testified against them. It cost her relationship with her parents, but she said it was worth it to finally do the right thing. She's part of our lives now, our real family, the one we chose. David and I were rebuilding. It's not the same as it was. You can't go through something like this and come out unchanged. There's grief for the years we lost, anger at what was stolen from us, trauma that we're both working through. We're in therapy, together, and separately. We're taking it day by day. Our daughter knows her father now. She's getting to build a relationship with him, carefully and slowly. She's also in therapy, processing the confusion and pain of these years. She's resilient though. Kids are more resilient than we give them credit for. I'm not going to stand here and tell you it's all perfect now. It's not. Some days, I'm still angry. Some days I wake up, and I can't believe that people I trusted could be so cruel. Some days, the weight of what they took from me, 6 years of my life, 6 years of my daughter's childhood, 6 years of my marriage, feels unbearable. But here's what I know now that I didn't know standing at that train station. I know that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. I know that fighting for yourself, for justice, for the truth, it matters. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I know that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about who shows up for you, who stands beside you when everything is falling apart, who chooses you, again and again. And I know that no matter how powerful someone seems, no matter how much money, or influence, or control they have, the truth is more powerful. It takes longer sometimes. It requires patience and strategy and courage. But the truth always has weight. To everyone watching this who's been betrayed, who's been manipulated, who's been told they're worthless, or crazy, or the problem you're not. The people who hurt you want you to believe you're powerless. They want you to give up, to disappear quietly, to let them win. Don't give them that satisfaction. Document everything. Find people who believe you. Get legal help if you can. Fight back with everything you have. Not because revenge is sweet, it's not, honestly. Fighting back is exhausting and painful, and there are days you'll want to give up. But do it anyway. Do it because you deserve justice. Do it because they don't get to destroy you without consequences. Do it because you're worth fighting for. My name is Morgan. I lost 6 years of my life to people who saw me as nothing more than an inconvenience. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. I took back my power, my dignity, and my future. And if I can do it, so can you. If this story resonated with you, if it gave you hope or strength, or just made you feel less alone, subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And leave a comment telling me what's your story. What did you survive? How did you fight back? Let's build a community of survivors who refuse to stay silent, who refuse to be erased, who refuse to let the people who hurt us have the last word. You are not alone. You are not powerless. And you deserve so much better than what they made you believe. Keep fighting. Keep surviving. Keep reclaiming your life, one day at a time. And remember, they may have written the beginning of your story, but you get to write the ending.